I think that this is a yes.
That's my prediction for 26.
I'm not quite sure that that's how it's going to play out. But
Yeah, I love this. I love this question and topic. I don't love the answer.
I think that will start to form in a much more organized, clearly visible way in 26.
This is AI First with Adam and Andy, the show that takes you straight to the front lines of AI innovation in business. I'm Andy Sack, and alongside my co-host, Adam Brotman, each episode we bring you candid conversations with business leaders transforming their businesses with AI. No fluff, just real talk, actionable insights, and use cases for you. Today we have a special episode for all of you. It's my favorite episode of the year, the predictions episode. And today we have a special guest, Rose Kelly. Rose, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rose. I work here at Forum 3 with Adam and Andy. I'm head of AI consulting and work with all of our consulting clients here.
Yeah, Rose also runs our community calls, which happen each month, which I want to invite you to. And today we asked Rose to join because she does such a great job on our community calls and our predictions episode. We have so many to go through that we felt we needed an extra moderator. So Rose, I'm going to hand it off to you and she's going to walk us through a series of predictions. With that, Rose, take us away.
Okay, I'm excited, you guys. This is going to be a good episode. So like Andy said, you guys each are going to have 1 minute to answer the questions. It's going to be a little bit of a rapid fire. So jumping right in, starting at the top. Will 2026 be the year we start seeing CEOs publicly hired or fired specifically because of their AI strategy and execution or lack thereof? Adam, can you start?
Yeah, I think that this is a yes. I think it's going to be more on the hired than the fired, but I think that I think 2026 will be the year that we'll start hearing about CEOs being specifically brought in because of their AI strategy.
Yeah, I think that AI competency is going to increasingly show up as an all executive requirement in job descriptions and in recruitment. And so I agree with Adam on the hiring side. I don't think in 26 that we'll see anyone fire, that it won't be clear to us at least that they're being terminated due to a lack of AI expertise. And I'll go a step further that I do think in 26, certainly in the startup community but maybe even in like mid-sized companies, we may see the first company run by an AI as CEO. So that's my prediction for 26.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Is today's AI boom a bubble that pops into a true AI winter next year? Andy?
Do I think there's going to be an AI winter next year? I don't. I think that when Adam and I have talked about this, we've talked about this on the pod, we believe that the demand side, the usage of AI is unlike anything we've seen in 25, 30 years of my professional experience. So ChatGPT launched 3 years ago. They're up 3.5 and the fastest technology and road to now over 800 million active users weekly. So I think the demand side is going to prevent it from being a nuclear winter, a true AI bubble. What I do think that's really confusing in the world today is that at the same time that AI is being born, there's this monetary and fiscal crisis, certainly in the US, more broadly in the world, that is like integrally tied in with this, and separating them apart is impossible. So we might not have an AI bubble burst, but we might have a global economy, global monetary policy burst.
Interesting. You took it to an interesting place. I would say that I do not think we're going to have an AI winter. I do think it's going to be a little weird and bumpy over the next year because there's so much money and so much riding on this topic. And I'll just comment by saying, I don't think that the general public and the general investing public fully has, I'll call it, baked in just what kind of a shift is going on here. I think that Jensen Huang, when he talks about it, I mean, putting aside NVIDIA's market cap and NVIDIA itself, which is an interesting story. I think Jensen Huang gives kind of a masterclass on the tectonic shift that's occurring across the infrastructure layer, the coding layer, and the agentic layer. And I think that is going to carry the day, but I think there's so much riding on it, and there's so much money, and there's a lack of full understanding of it that it can cause a real volatile situation. But I don't think we're going to see an AI winter and a bubble like bursting in any sort of, more than momentary way.
Yeah, one thing that I'll just add to that is that just as we were at the birth, I wasn't alive then, of the industrial era, when viewed as we're at the birth of the AI era, we're still early in its adoption and explosion. And the next 2 to 3 years are going to be insane from that perspective.
So somewhat related, do you guys think, will AI be a top issue in the 2026 US midterms? Andy?
I think they'll be one of the top 3 topics. And I think it will become a political item. It's unclear what the Republicans where they're going to side, and it's unclear where the Democrats are going to side on this topic. But definitely as a result of, I do think in 26 we'll start to see the labor impact of AI. And I also think that the regulatory framework, this whole issue of federal rights versus states' rights as it relates to regulation, is a very big topic that is going to come to a head in 26. And I believe that there'll be a federal law around the time of the midterm elections, if not before, to eliminate this problem so that AI can continue to advance from a regulatory standpoint in the United States at the pace that it has.
Yeah, I think that's really well put, actually, that it's going to be a top issue from a combination of, there's going to be nervousness around jobs and the impact of jobs. There's going to be that nervousness will bleed over into a lot of creators that are going to feel like there's an ethical issue with what's going on. And I don't think there's any way to get around it being a top 3 issue. And I think that what Andy just said is really interesting, because I agree. It's not clear to me, like, which, is it going to split amongst party lines, or is it going to be more jagged in terms of how different politicians come down on it? I'm not sure yet either. But it feels like the current administration is all in on accelerationist and lack of regulation at the state level. And so that sets up the polarization, but it's not, I'm like Andy, I'm not quite sure that that's how it's going to play out, but I do think it becomes a top issue either way in the midterm.
Taking it like kind of one step further, do you think that in 2026, do you think we'll see a real anti-AI camp emerge? Like a group of like kind of faction of people who are really anti-AI, aside from politics?
I do. I would say that there already is one, by the way. I think it's just not, but it's interesting. Like I don't think it's like well organized or anything like that. But it's, I think that there's a lot of people who pay attention to what's going on social media, for example, on this topic. You'll see a pretty clear anti-AI, almost AI hate. I think what might happen is there might be some kind of a pro-human, like it might get framed in like human versus AI and a premium put on human creations and human experiences. So I think that will start to form in a much more organized, clearly visible way in 26.
Yeah, I think those are 2 distinct elements, which is the anti-AI element and then the pro-human element. I think those are distinct. I do think Adam, I'll give you credit. You were the one who raised this as a topic for us to discuss around the anti-AI element, and that in 26, from a prediction standpoint, I think you stated, and I agree, that is going to grow, and it's going to grow, I think, as a result of the increase in layoffs, not just stalled hiring. So I think that there's already kernels of it, and I think it's going to increase significantly in 26. I think from the pro-human side, I actually, I may get this wrong, but where my wife and I are watching Pluribus, which is the new show by Vince Gilligan, the writer and creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And it's a good show, so I recommend it to my audience. Shout out Pluribus and Vince Gilligan. But in it, on the credits, it says this was created entirely with no AI. And that's the first time that I've seen that. And I think that will continue to be certainly in performances, music, theater, and film. You'll see that increasingly as part of the pro-human move.
Talking about kind of creators, do you think that 2026 is going to be the moment that ordinary people can kind of no longer tell real from fake online?
Yes. Like I
Who are you
think,
directing that? Who are you directing that to, Rose?
Adam, do you want to take that first? Or do
yeah,
you think it's already happened?
well, this past weekend, so we're at the end, we're in towards the end of November of 2025, and Gemini 3 and Nano Banana Pro just came out, and they didn't put any restrictions apparently on, likeness. So I saw these pictures all over my Twitter feed that I could not tell. I mean, I knew they weren't real because the people were trying to show off Nano Banana 3 and said, and the headline was like, "We're so cooked" or whatever. And it was like Elon and Jensen Huang and Sam Altman and Bill Gates and
Yeah, I
whatever,
saw
all
that.
like hanging out, like playing poker or whatever. Like it was impossible to tell that they weren't, what the difference between reality and photos are. And I think that it's going to be the year where I do think we enter into the year where that just becomes, unfortunately, there's going to have to be some sort of almost like a societal norm that's going to have to get created around like some hashtag or something you put on that says like not AI or something. I don't know.
Andy?
Yeah, I love this. I love this question and topic. I don't love the answer, but headline on the answer is yes, we have entered toward the end of in 2026, we have entered the post-truth era. And that's basically the inability of consumers to distinguish between what's real reporting and real video and real images and what is AI created. I've had, just to illustrate it, in the last month, I've had 2 instances where I've shared things thinking they were real and they turned out to be totally created by AI. One was I got really into this video by Sam Altman, which he was talking, and it took me 15 minutes of his speaking about AI. It was a long video on YouTube, and it took me 15 minutes. And then I just distinguished in the audio and in the video. I was like, oh, this isn't Sam talking. This is a avatar of Sam. And I shared that, I think, with both of you, Adam and Rose. But it took me 15 minutes, and it was because I was so involved in the intellectual content of what was being communicated in the video. And so I think that that's going to continue to happen. And when that does happen, AI becomes incredibly persuasive. And I was like, oh boy, watch out for this. Separately, occasionally I'll spend my free 5 minutes of time looking at Instagram Reels. And there was an Instagram Reels, and I ended up sharing it with the whole team about an AI generated haircut in which consumers put their head in a hole and they come out and they're fully coiffed. And I was like, this is amazing. I want one of these. And I shared it with the whole team. And I think it may have been Adam, it may have been another member of our team who had said, Andy, that's not real. That's all AI generated. And I was like, I thought it was a real machine. I was excited for the AI generated haircut. And I was fooled by that. So there's 2 fun instances, but we have definitely, we are entering, in 2026 is the year of the post-truth era.
Yeah, it's scary, especially thinking about the midterms, about what could be out there. And
Yeah, just a postscript on Andy's point. One is, I was impressed with your bravery, Andy, that you would stick your head in some hair cutting like machine like that. But a good thing is,
I was excited. Not only did I want to do it, I wanted to buy the machine.
I know I was like, you're brave. I mean, that's not real, but you're brave. The second thing I'd say is related to this topic, is just worth noting for everybody. I think last week was the first time, or one of the first times, that an AI song cracked the top. I don't know if it's a top spot or just a top part of one of the Billboard charts in a country category. And you know, it's it was a good song. It's images, it's videos, it's music, and we're entering into just this weird like post-truth, clarity era, and we're all gonna have to adjust.
I'll add that I think this post-truth and this I guess post-truth disinformation, we didn't mention it when we talked about the backlash and the anti-AI sentiment. I think it's going to be a real part of, and I don't know what with the societal response, because we do need a response to be able to know, oh, that's a real video. I mean, it's just, or a real image. So I don't know what the solution is. I often say that it might involve blockchain, but I really don't know what's going to happen. And it could create a lot of chaos.
Yeah, at a minimum, I hope that people in 2026, I'll make a impromptu prediction, that there needs to be some norm or heuristic of some sort that gets developed, even though it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be like blockchain perfect in terms of verifiable, where people, if somebody puts hashtag not AI or something, that it's at least puts the credibility of the publisher on the line, that they believe it's not AI, or they're telling you this is a real photo. I mean, you're talking about like Nano Banana Pro can create pictures of like the three of us at some event in Las Vegas and we weren't even there, right? Like, in other words, it's for social, it's not just like deep fakes. It's even just like within the norm of like photo sharing and social media. So yeah, this is a good topic. You can tell from the way we spend extra time on it. This is a meaty one for 2026.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Okay, switching gears a little bit, talking about kind of work. We mentioned this a little bit. I think, Adam, you mentioned it, but will AI create an employment cliff in 2026 where hiring falls off? Andy, do you want to start?
Will there be an employment cliff? No, I don't want to start off. Adam, you start.
I don't think that will happen in a cliff in 2026, either of just people stopping hiring or mass firings. I do not think that happens in 2026. I hope I'm right, by the way, but I don't, because I feel like that's coming. I don't think it's coming in 2026. I feel like there's just too much. I mean, think about all these data centers that are getting built, and there's just a lot of stimulus that's coming from the latest bill that came through Congress. There's just a lot of stuff that will counteract it, and maybe, dare I say the word, obfuscate the reality of what's going on in the workplace, which is that you don't need to hire as many people, and you don't need as many people to get things done, and that's going to cause, in my opinion, a problem. I don't think it'll be a major problem in 26, though. But I'm guessing my buddy Andy is going to take the other side of that, but we'll see.
No, I paused for a moment because I didn't know what I wanted to say on this, and then I handed it over to you, Adam. Here's what I'll say, because I have done a fair amount of deep research. I've done a lot of thinking with AI on this topic because I'm super interested in the implications to the labor markets as a result of AI. And I'm going to come down on the prediction as no, in 2026, there's not going to be an employment cliff. When I say that, that is my belief. It's not really shirking. It's sidestepping the issue a little bit, which is, with COVID, we had an employment cliff. Like, people got laid off over a 30, 60-day period of time, and that was a real cliff. With AI, it's the line of employment is going to be a much more gradual readjustment than an actual cliff. So that's point one. Point two is that I think in 2026, it starts with and you're already seeing this at the end of 25, with a slowing of hiring first. And I think 26 is going to continue to be the age of human plus AI rather than just AI. So I think replacement comes in 27 and 28 more than in 26.
Okay. Sticking with work, let's talk a little bit about ChatGPT. I know we've all been excited about Gemini 3. Do you think by the end of 2026, is ChatGPT still the default AI tool at work?
That's a great question.
Adam, you want to take it?
I would say yes. My prediction is yes. I do feel like but it's getting splintered in what I'd say is that you've got, not just is it getting, I don't think it's a binary. I think it's a multi-player game, if you will. I think Claude, as we've seen, continues to dominate. I still think they're going to continue to dominate as the coding tool AI coding tool of choice that maybe sits underneath a cursor, or maybe just you raw use it with Claude Code. But man, is Codex from ChatGPT supposedly amazing, and Gemini 3 is incredible at coding. I mean, Grok's good at coding. So, I mean, I think it's like there's a question around coding in the workplace. There's a question around what is your sort of default enterprise tool between Copilot, ChatGPT, and Gemini. I feel like those are the three, or Google Workspace with Gemini. I think those are the three real choices. I still think it's going to be ChatGPT, although it's interesting. A side question, and I'll let Andy answer, is like, where does Microsoft and Copilot come out in all this? And actually, I wonder if on a raw numbers, if they have way more quote unquote users in the enterprise than ChatGPT does in the enterprise. I wonder. I've never seen those numbers. So I think you got to look at it from like different angles between Copilot, Claude Code, if you will, and ChatGPT, and then Gemini, and it's complicated. So my short answer would be yes. I think that we're still going to be saying, if you have to pick one default tool in the enterprise and you want the best one for the enterprise, pick ChatGPT. I think we'll be saying that through 2026, but man, is Google making a run at it. And, don't count Microsoft out either.
Andy?
Yeah, I'll answer, and I'll say that ChatGPT is the default use in the enterprise, and they actually make even a stronger play in the enterprise. And I'm going to predict even further that they have filed for their IPO successfully in 2026. If they don't in 2026, Microsoft swoops in and buys them. That's my prediction. So all fronts, ChatGPT is the leader of the LLM usage in the enterprise going public, and if not, they're bought by Microsoft.
Adam, I'm going to put it back on you. What are your thoughts on the IPO?
I love Andy's prediction chutzpah, but I think that it's not going to happen in 2026. But I know Andy.
I may not either, but for the prediction episode, I think it's the right call.
Yeah. No, I actually think it's interesting.
I like the boldness.
Yeah. And I was actually just in a text exchange with Andy, or email exchange with the two of you, about, it's fascinating because Claude is doing so well with coders, and it gets oversimplified to being like they're the B2B leader, but it's mostly because of what they do with coding, and they're the developers. Every company has got developers, which is like every company practically. They're using Claude Code, and so I'm fascinated by like Anthropic on its own, and Anthropic plus Microsoft would be amazing. But then I'm agreeing with Andy that that would be a move by Microsoft, a strong one. And so I'm not predicting it's going to happen, but that whole topic is so interesting to me as we go into 2026.
Yeah, especially when you look back at all that happened in 2025. It's hard to imagine what the end of the year is going to look like.
Yeah, especially with Gemini, like Google. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think anything's going to happen between now and Jan 1. That'd be fascinating to see if anything does, of Jan 1 of 2026. So that means at the end of the year is Google, hitting a long 3-point shot to like take the lead in some interesting ways, but the game's not over by any stretch. So let's see. And again, I'm fascinated to see what, and maybe this is a topic we're going to talk about, what happens in 2026, if anything, with OpenAI and this whole Johnny Ive stuff that's going on around a consumer device. So, and you got to imagine ChatGPT 6 is cooking in some oven somewhere. So this is going to be a fascinating year between Apple, Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, Anthropic. Grok is sitting back there. So there's a lot of interesting moving pieces here going into 26.
So it's not exactly the Johnny Ive question, but it is related. So next up, in 2026, does voice-first conversational AI become a mainstream way people interact with technology at work and home? So not just like a demo on a stage. Do you think that voice becomes a way that people are interacting more? Andy?
Sure. Yes. 2026 is the year of voice. In the spirit of prediction episodes, yeah. I mean, it's a much more natural way of interfacing with computers. I'm older. I'm sort of the old dog, but I have the new trick. I love voice mode. And I think that while I still find myself resorting to writing, I think that it's a much more natural play. So yeah, 26 is the year of voice and the death of the keyboard.
I'll take the other side of that just because I don't think it's going to happen in that I do believe in that generally. So I agree with Andy, the sentiment that Andy said. I don't think it's going to happen in 26 for a couple of reasons. But here's the thing to keep an eye on for everybody that's listening. One is if Apple actually, the rumor is that, and I guess maybe it's more than a rumor, but the reporting is that Apple has done a deal for now with Google Gemini, and they've got like Gemini 3 that's going to be connected to Siri and perhaps beyond Siri, just to overall like Siri Plus. And as I'm saying that, Siri on my phone is trying to light up and wanting to know what I'm asking. And that could be a huge game changer to make Andy's prediction a yes. If that happens and everyone's just talking to their iPhone about everything, and it's like, that could happen. So Apple alone through iOS and their deal could make it happen. It's worth noting that, and I've actually read some stuff about this weekend, the voice mode of ChatGPT and Gemini and all these other models, they're using like the older models. And so they're sort of leaving advanced voice mode behind in some ways while they advance their models and advance their systems. So I actually think that long-term this will happen to be a default way of interacting with AI and computers and in our phones and technology in general. I think it's not going to happen in 26 as a default, but keep your eye on Apple and Siri and Gemini, and I think it's coming. I just don't think it's going to happen in 26.
On a related note, do you think the Johnny Ives hardware is going to launch in 2026? And any thoughts on what it'll be, Adam?
I would say this. I don't know about launch, but be announced. Like I think we're getting to a place right now where OpenAI holds a very important position, one that I'm not sure they want to hold, but I'm guessing they do, which is that they, lots riding on the success of OpenAI in terms of the AI stock trade, in terms of how people feel about the space. And I believe that they have the potential to do something special with Johnny Ive, obviously, and wearables or a device or whatever it is. I got to imagine they're going to want to get that vision out in front of the world ASAP, given the, sort of the vibe check at the end of the year here with Gemini. And I'm a fan of OpenAI and ChatGPT in terms of like their capabilities, in terms of their ability to always impress, in terms of their product abilities. And that's a key thing to focus on, is they may be the best product company in some senses of the whole group right now in terms of the user interface and some of those things. And that could carry an enormous amount of weight, and you throw the Johnny Ive thing in there. So yes, I think in 26, we're going to see what that is, and it's going to help them, is my prediction, sort of dust themselves off from whatever happened at the end of this year and do quite well in 2026. I'm a believer in the company.
Andy, anything to add on that note?
I think we're at 20. I'll broaden it and say 2026 is the year of AI devices, and of which Johnny Ives will be one, and meaning OpenAI's will be one. And I think that it's integrally tied with the last topic of, will voice be the predominant interface? So yeah, I think there's going to be ambient listening devices and ambient AI devices that enable a consumer to interact with AI in different ways, including Meta glasses. So I think 26 we'll see the first. I don't think we'll see a dominant position. Typically in these things, people get them wrong at first, but we're going to see those come out, and that's going to be a major trend in 26.
Okay, so sticking with hardware, let's talk about robots. Do you think 2026 will be the year that you see a humanoid robot out in the wild, like walking down the street in Seattle or New York? Andy?
I mean, you're asking me in a week where I've just seen the first Waymos in Seattle. I know they've been in San Francisco and in Scottsdale and Phoenix, but Waymo is now here. And I like the description of Tesla's auto drive as really just automated robots on wheels. So I think we've already seen it. I think it's interesting. Do I think 26 is the year of the robot? I don't. I think that's going to be saved for next year's prediction.
Okay, so you don't think we'll see humanoid robots out in the wild?
I don't.
Okay.
Other than Waymo and auto drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Andy's take was spot on. I think it's you're gonna at this time next year, we're going to be predicting yes to that in 27. And for 26, I don't think we'll see them. I've heard that they're talking about trying to get the production line ready by this time next year at Optimus Tesla. And, I don't know about Figure and some others. There's a bunch of them. I think 27 will be that year. And I think, but it'll come close in 26. And Andy's totally right to tie it to robots that drive us around, called autonomous driving Teslas and Waymos and whatnot. And I think that's an underplayed story in 25. I think that story of autonomous driving and the implications of it are going to be huge in 26. And, kudos to Tesla from what I've heard about their most recent full self-driving. I've heard it's incredible. Andre Karpathy made a comment that said it's here, like we're there. So I think that's going to be a big story in 26. So I agree with Andy.
I love that line. It's here. We're there.
Okay, that was the last question I had. Do you guys have any last kind of, I don't know, statements for what you think you're going to see in 2026? Anything you didn't get to say that you wanted to say about what you're thinking about for next year? Adam?
I would just end by saying something that Andy said at the beginning of the show, which is that when we talked about the bubble, I think next year is the year that a lot more discussion happens about the fact that we are at the beginning of a new industrial type revolution or some kind of revolution. And not in a hypey way, like in a fully calm, and serious way. I think it will engender more serious conversations. People will stop talking about, oh, is this real or not? Or it's happening. And I think next year it'll start dawning on more people how serious this is. It's not all good. It's not all bad. But it's fundamentally going to change a lot of aspects of society. And, I'm eager, not to end on I don't mean this to be negative or overly serious, but I'm eager for us to have more serious conversations about what's going on. And I say that from someone who has been focused on the enterprise use of this and AI first things. And my guess is that my final prediction is that does happen in 2026, that there's more documentaries and TV shows and conversations about having conversations about the implications of this. That hasn't happened enough. Remember Oprah Winfrey had that one special about AI, and I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was like, why are we not seeing more of that? It's weird to me that we're not seeing more people talking about it at that level and recognizing that we got some serious discussions to have around what this means for us all. So I predict that's a big theme. Yeah, more serious conversations are going to have to happen. And I think they will happen because I think this Gemini 3 moment was kind of like a GPT-4 moment a little bit for people. And so there you go. Here we are. Whatever I said, Andy, that's the line.
Andy, any last word from you in 2026?
I mean, I want to end with saying Happy New Year. However, I'll save that for a moment. I think that a couple of things that we've highlighted previously that I want to highlight again in the predictions episode. I do think there'll be serious conversation about how AI impacts democracy. We had a mini episode on algorithm versus democracy, and I thought that was a really good episode. And I do think that that's a critical topic, certainly for the country and the world. So I think that will happen in 26 more, because I do think 26 is really the disinformation, misinformation that we talked about in this episode, coupled with the regulatory, coupled with the human backlash. It's going to be a chaotic year. AI plays a role, and the pace of the AI development plays a role in creating that chaos. And so I think those two things are worth highlighting. And the other one, which we didn't cover in prep, is there was that news item a month ago where there was the state-sponsored attack and fraud in the US. I think the rise of AI fraud is going to happen in a major way. So it's just AI touches everything, and it has such global political implications that 26 we're going to see that play out. Happy New Year.
Yeah, on that note.
I know.
No, it's look, we've been We're such proponents of AI as an underutilized, misunderstood tool by consumers and specifically enterprise. Like all three of us use it all day, every day, and we're passionate about it and we extol the virtues of it. And we think it's an incredible tool, but not lost with those advancements. The tool has lots of other impacts on all aspects of our lives, and that is going to accelerate in 26. Well, thank you, Rose, for helping us with this episode. And thank you all for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed the Predictions 2026 episode. Thanks for tuning in to AI First with Adam and Andy. For more resources on how to become AI First, you can visit our website, forum3.com, download case studies, research briefings, executive summaries, and join our email list. As I mentioned, we also invite you to join our AI First community, a curated hub and network for leaders turning AI hype into action. We truly believe you can't overinvest in AI learning. Onward.